Well, let's hope that South Africa's presidential delegation to Nigeria this week will go some way in easing the recent friction between the two nations. President Jacob Zuma becomes the first head of state to officially visit Nigeria since Muhammadu Buhari was elected president late last year. President Zuma is expected to iron out differences with the Nigerian government on issues relating to the treatment of South African companies, differing positions on a number of international issues, and complaints by Nigerian firms about a lack of investment opportunities. Local companies have had major problems in Nigeria, with MTN being fined billions for contravening rules on deregistering subscribers, and the issue of multi-choice franchise DSTV, which remains a monopoly in Nigeria, is also likely to come up in talks. Well, for more on this, we cross live to our correspondent in Nigeria, Sophia Adengo. Sophia, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. It's largely anticipated that discussions around South African business in Nigeria could dominate the talks. But what are the Nigerians interested in? How will they be approaching this visit?
Well, President Jacob Zuma is scheduled to arrive today in Nigeria, and from a Nigerian perspective, it seems to be the, the first sort of endorsement to move forward in smoothing out any kind of, rocky relationship that Nigeria has had with South Africa. In the beginning, often Nigerian business persons felt that South African companies were able to come in and by sheer will and capital were able to dominate and take a lion's share of, the market here in Nigeria. And perhaps maybe the arrival of President Jacob Zuma and his delegation, who will be addressing, a South African-Nigerian business forum, will see that, indeed Nigerian business persons are being heard and that their concerns are being tabled and, of course, being ironed out from a government point of view, and also to really just interact, to more or less network amongst these two countries and realize that there is indeed, a great deal of potential that can arise out of both nations not competing as the giants on the continent, but indeed working together to be able to create, a trade, environment in which both countries can thrive. Alicia.
Sophia, Nigerian authorities could also likely talk about challenges faced by Nigerians in South Africa. What would top the agenda in this regard?
Well, everybody would agree rightfully that, crossing into South Africa as a Nigerian and South Africans crossing into Nigeria to be able to do business would probably top this agenda. Because, if markets are not made readily accessible by these foreign direct investors on both sides, it becomes increasingly difficult to realize what some of these talks, come out with in terms of policy. So immigration, I believe, would be top on the agenda. South Africa has always said that they would be more than willing to open the markets in terms of providing expertise and technology and soft skills to Nigeria, where Nigeria has often said by sheer numbers, the labor force is very readily tapped. Can freely move to South Africa to be able to not only just migrate and live in South Africa, but offer a sort of base in which South Africa can draw from in terms of labor. So indeed, immigration and migration will definitely be part of the topic, and also in terms of how to rectify where there are loopholes, in which taking a finer look at what policy is really best for both countries going forward.
And it's clear by the size of this delegation that both sides consider existing bilateral relations as valuable. Do you see these talks going a long way to ease the political and economic friction which has emerged?
Well, if you look at the last 2 years and the history of both countries and the way that they have been relating to one another, it is vitally important that you see Jacob Zuma standing up and, addressing the fact that perhaps there has been a derailing of what was initially a positive interaction. And so the vastness of, of his delegation that ranges from foreign policy, that ranges from the economic side of things, and also defense and security are all a reflection of the various areas in which Nigeria and South Africa must address certain issues. It's quite also interesting to point out that the economic ties that have bound Nigeria and South Africa together in the past must be readdressed, upgraded, and maybe even given steered into a new direction under a new leadership here with President Muhammadu Buhari.
Sophia, thank you very much. That's our correspondent Sophia Adengo live from Abuja in Nigeria.